from a basket in the Nile to the edge of the promised land. This is the story of Moses, prince, fugitive, and the man who led a nation from slavery to freedom. This is the story of Moses, from the Nile to the promised land. Imagine a kingdom where fear ruled from the throne. In ancient Egypt, Pharaoh had just issued a terrifying command: every Hebrew baby boy must be thrown into the Nile River. Why? Because the Israelites had grown too numerous, and Pharaoh was afraid they'd rise up against him. In that darkness, one family dared to hope, and one baby's cry would change history. A Levite couple, Amram and Jochebed, had just welcomed a son, but this was no ordinary birth. It was a birth under a death sentence. For 3 months, Jochebed hid her baby. Scripture says she saw that he was a fine child. Some translations say beautiful or special. She saw something in him worth risking everything for. When she could hide him no longer, she didn't give up. She got creative. She wove a basket from papyrus reeds, sealed it with tar and pitch to make it waterproof, and placed her baby inside. Then, with a prayer and a trembling heart, she set that basket among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. The baby wasn't alone. His sister, Miriam, stood at a distance to see what would happen. And what happened next was nothing short of providence. Pharaoh's own daughter came down to the Nile to bathe. She spotted the basket. When she opened it, the baby was crying, and her heart melted.
"This is one of the Hebrew babies,"
she said, but instead of following her father's cruel law, she had compassion. This is where Miriam steps in. Brilliant move. She approaches and asks,
"Shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?"
Pharaoh's daughter says yes. So who does Miriam get? Their mother, Jochebed. The baby's own mom gets paid to nurse and raise her son, protected by the princess herself. When the child grew older, Jochebed brought him back to Pharaoh's daughter, who adopted him as her son. She named him Moses, saying,
"I drew him out for the water."
So Moses grew up as a prince of Egypt. He learned to read hieroglyphs and learned to ride chariots to command soldiers. He walked palace halls lined with gold, ate from royal tables, and was educated in all the wisdom of Egypt. To the world, he was Egyptian nobility, yet in his blood and in his earliest memories, he was Hebrew. Moses lived with a split identity. By day, he wore Egyptian linen and a royal braid, but at night, he remembered lullabies in Hebrew and the stories of a God who promised freedom. When he was about 40, Moses went out to see his people. He watched them bent under the whip, making bricks for Pharaoh's cities. The injustice burned. One day he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave. Looking around and seeing no one, Moses struck the Egyptian down and hid him in the sand. He thought his people would understand that he was choosing them. But the next day, he tried to break up a fight between two Hebrews.
"Who made you a prince and judge over us?"
One said.
"Will you kill me like you killed the Egyptian?"
His secret was out. When Pharaoh heard, he tried to kill Moses. So the prince of Egypt ran. He fled across the desert to Midian, trading palace luxury for a shepherd's staff. Moses thought his story was over, now a fugitive in the wilderness. But he didn't know this was just the middle of the story. 40 years after fleeing Egypt, Moses is a shepherd in the desert of Midian. He's left his royal past behind. His life is quiet, ordinary, until one day on Mount Horeb, the mountain of God, Moses spots something strange off the path. A bush engulfed in flames, but it doesn't burn up. The leaves aren't turning to ash. The branches aren't crumbling.
"What is this? I have to see this great sight. Why isn't the bush burning up?"
"Moses, Moses,
"Here I am."
do not come closer. Take off your sandals, for the place you are standing is holy ground. I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob."
Moses hides his face, afraid to look at God.
"I have seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers. I am concerned about their suffering, so I have come down to rescue them and bring them to a good land, flowing with milk and honey. Now, Moses, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt."
"Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh, that I should bring the Israelites out of Egypt?"
"I will be with you, and this will be the sign. When you have brought the people out, you will worship God on this mountain."
"Suppose I go and they ask me, What is his name? What should I tell them?
I am who I am. Tell them I am has sent you. This is my name forever, the name you shall call me for all generations.
What if they don't believe me or listen to me? I'm not good with words. I'm slow of speech.
Who gave human beings their mouths? Who makes them deaf or mute? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak, and will teach you what to say.
God gives Moses 3 signs: a staff that becomes a snake, a hand that turns leprous and is healed, and water from the Nile that turns to blood. And he sends Aaron, Moses' brother, to speak with him.
I will be with your mouth and with his mouth. I will teach you both what to do.
Now he's carrying a staff, a promise, and a lot of fear. First stop, the Israelite elders. Moses is expecting doubt. Instead, he gets worship.
The Lord has seen your misery. He's heard your cries. He's come to rescue you.
Aaron's staff drops, becomes a snake, then staff again. Moses' hand turns leprous, then heals. When the people see the signs, they believe. They bow down and worship God. Hope is alive, but it's about to get harder. Next stop, Pharaoh's palace, the most powerful man on earth.
This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says.
Let my people go, so they may hold a festival to me in the wilderness.
Who is the Lord, that I should obey him and let Israel go? I don't know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go.
Pharaoh ordered his soldiers.
These people are lazy. From now on, no straw for bricks. Let them gather it themselves. Same quota, more work.
The plan backfires. Instead of freedom, the Israelites get crushed.
May the Lord judge you. You've made us stink to Pharaoh. You've put a sword in his hand to kill us.
Lord, why have you brought trouble on this people? Why did you send me? Ever since I spoke to Pharaoh, he's made it worse. You haven't rescued them at all.
God answers.
Now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh. Because of my mighty hand, he will let them go. I am the Lord. I will free you. I will redeem you. I will take you as my own.
Moses learned fast. Obedience doesn't mean instant victory. Sometimes things get worse before God makes them better. But the story wasn't over. Pharaoh said no. God was just getting started. So God sent 10 plagues, escalating warnings, to break Pharaoh's stubbornness and free the Israelites. Each one struck at Egypt's gods, economy, and pride. 1. Water to blood. The Nile turned to blood. Fish died. Egyptians couldn't drink. Their river god, Happy, was powerless. 2. Frogs. Frogs swarmed from the Nile into homes, beds, ovens, everywhere. Hecate, the frog goddess, couldn't stop it. 3. Gnats, lice. Dust became gnats that tormented people and animals. Even Pharaoh's magicians said, "This is the finger of God." But Pharaoh's heart stayed hard. 4. Flies. Swarms of flies filled Egypt. But God spared Goshen where Israelites lived, a clear division. 5. Livestock disease. Egyptian cattle, horses, and sheep died in the fields. Yet Israelite livestock lived. 6. Boils. Painful sores broke out on people and animals. Not even Pharaoh's magicians could stand before Moses. Still, Pharaoh refused. 7. Hail. Thunder, fire, and hail destroyed crops, and anyone outside dead. Some Egyptians who feared God sheltered inside and were saved. 8. Locusts. Swarms devoured every plant the hail left. Nothing green remained in Egypt. Pharaoh said sorry, but then changed his mind. 9. Darkness. For 3 days, Egypt was covered in darkness, so thick you could feel it, but Israelites had light in their homes. 10. Death of the firstborn. God's final warning. Every firstborn Egyptian son would die, from Pharaoh's heir to a prisoner's child. But God gave Israelites instructions. Sacrifice a lamb. Paint its blood on the doorposts. When the destroyer saw the blood, he would pass over that house. At midnight, it happened. Egypt woke to wailing. Pharaoh finally broke.
Go! Leave! Take everything!
That night, the Exodus began. The Israelites walked free after 400 years of slavery. Led by Moses, they fled Egypt, but now they were trapped. In front of them, the Red Sea, vast and uncrossable. Behind them, the thunder of Pharaoh's chariots, 600 war chariots, closing fast.
We're going to die. Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert?
Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today.
As night fell, God moved. The pillar of cloud that led them moved behind them, standing between the Israelites and the Egyptians. To one side it gave light, to the other, darkness. All night, neither army could advance. Then God spoke to Moses.
Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on. Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea to divide the water so that the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground.
So Moses turned to the sea. The wind was howling. The people were watching. He raised his staff and stretched his hand out over the water. All that night, a strong east wind drove the sea back, and the waters parted. They didn't just recede, they stood up, walls of water, towering to the left and to the right, and between them, a path of dry ground.
Mama, look.
And so the Israelites walked, men, women, children, with all they owned, through the sea, on dry land, with a wall of water on their right and on their left. All night they crossed, thousands of them, as the pillar of cloud held the Egyptians back. When morning came, the Egyptians pursued them. Pharaoh's chariots charged down the same path, into the middle of the sea, but God threw the Egyptian army into confusion. He jammed the wheels of their chariots, so they could hardly drive.
Let's get away from the Israelites. The Lord is fighting for them.
Then God said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea again." Moses did, and the sea went back to its place. It covered the chariots, the horsemen, Pharaoh's entire army. Not one of them survived. When the Israelites saw the mighty hand of the Lord, they feared the Lord and put their trust in him, and in Moses his servant. And on that shore, they sang. 6 weeks after leaving slavery in Egypt, the Israelites hit a wall. They're hungry, really hungry, and scared.
We were better off in Egypt. At least we had pots of meat and bread there.
They start complaining to Moses, loudly, but God hears them. God tells Moses,
I've heard them. I'm going to rain bread from heaven for you.
But there's a test. Each day, they can only gather enough for that day, except the 6th day. Then they gather double, because the 7th day is Sabbath, a day of rest. That evening, it starts. Quail cover the camp, meat for dinner. Everyone eats.
Where did all these birds come from?
Then morning comes. The ground is covered in thin flakes, like frost.
What is it?
This is the bread the Lord has given you to eat. The people called it manna, which literally means, what is it?
It tasted like wafers made with honey, and it came every morning for 40 years. But here's the rule. Take only what you need for today. Some people didn't listen. They tried to stockpile it. By morning, it was full of maggots and stank. You couldn't hoard it. But on Friday, when they gathered double, it didn't spoil. It kept perfectly for Sabbath. God was teaching them something. Trust me one day at a time. Don't worry about tomorrow's bread today. I'll provide again tomorrow.
I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry.
The Israelites have been traveling through the desert for 3 months. They arrive at the foot of a massive mountain, Mount Sinai. Thunder rolls. The mountain trembles. God tells Moses,
I am going to come to you in a dense cloud, so that people will hear me speak with you.
Something world-changing is about to happen. God gives Moses instructions. The people must prepare for 3 days. They wash their clothes. They set boundaries around the mountain. No one is allowed to touch it, or even get close. On the morning of the 3rd day, the sky cracks open. There's lightning, thick smoke, and the sound of a trumpet getting louder and louder. The whole mountain shakes violently. The people at the camp tremble in fear. Moses goes up to meet God in the fire and smoke. Then God speaks, not just to Moses, but so all the people can hear. His voice thunders across the camp with the 10 commandments.
I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of slavery. 1. You shall have no other gods before me. 2. You shall not make idols. 3. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. 4. Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. 5. Honor your father and your mother. 6. You shall not murder. 7. You shall not commit adultery. 8. You shall not steal. 9. You shall not give false testimony. 10. you shall not covet.
The people are overwhelmed. They tell Moses,
Speak to us yourself, and we will listen. But do not have God speak to us, or we will die.
Do not be afraid. God has come to test you, so that the fear of him will keep you from sinning.
While the mountain still smokes, God called Moses up the mountain. For 40 days and 40 nights, Moses was gone, receiving the law, the 10 Commandments etched in stone. Down below, the people waited, and then they started to panic.
Moses is gone, that man who brought us out of Egypt. We don't know what happened to him.
Give us a God who will go before us.
They went to Aaron, Moses' brother, the one left in charge.
Make us gods we can see.
Take off your gold earrings, all of you, your wives, your sons and daughters, and bring them to me.
Aaron took the gold, melted it in the fire, and molded it. When it cooled, it was a calf, a golden calf, like the gods of Egypt they had just left behind.
These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt.
The people bowed down. They feasted. They danced. They traded the invisible God, who freed them, for something they could touch. Up on the mountain, God told Moses,
Go down. Your people have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly.
Moses came down carrying the 2 stone tablets. He heard music and shouting from the camp. Then he saw it. The calf, the dancing, the revelry, in anger and grief. Moses threw the tablets down at the foot of the mountain, shattering them.
Aaron, what did these people do to you, that you led them into such great sin?
Do not be angry. You know how prone these people are to evil. They gave me gold. I threw it into the fire, and out came this calf.
Moses took the golden calf, burned it in the fire, ground it to powder, scattered it in the water, and made the Israelites drink it.
Whoever is for the Lord, come to me.
It was a reckoning. The covenant was broken, but not ended. Moses went back up the mountain and pleaded for his people.
Forgive their sin. If not, blot me out too.
God forgave them and renewed the covenant. Moses came down again with 2 new tablets, his face shining from being in God's presence, and he comes down with more than commandments. He comes down with a blueprint. God says,
Make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them.
Not a palace of stone, a tent, portable, because this God intends to travel. He gives the specs like an architect. Acacia wood overlaid with pure gold, 10 curtains of fine linen, blue and purple and scarlet, woven with cherubim. Inside, an ark for the tablets, a table for bread, a lampstand hammered from 1 talent of gold. Outside, a bronze altar, a basin for washing, a courtyard of linen walls. Every material preaches, gold for kingship, linen for purity, blue for heaven pulled low to earth. Then Moses does something odd. He does not levy a tax. He says,
Take an offering from everyone whose heart moves him.
And they come. Earrings, armlets, spun goat hair, dyed ram skins, acacia logs, olive oil, spices. The women who spin, spin. The men who carve, carve. They bring so much that Moses has to tell them, stop. God names the foreman, Bezalel of Judah, filled, the text says, with the Spirit of God, with wisdom and skill in every craft. Oholiab of Dan, to teach beside him. They are not priests. They are artists. This is the first time workmanship is called holy. For months they build in the shadow of the mountain. The ark with its mercy seat, 2 cherubim facing each other, the menorah like an almond tree in bloom, light on 7 branches, the veil, thick, that separates the holy place from the most holy. Everything is designed to move, rings and poles on the ark, the table, the altars, no wheels, only shoulders. Levites will carry the presence when the cloud lifts. On the first day of the first month, a year after the Exodus, Moses raises it. He sets the bases, hangs the curtains, places each vessel, anoints it all with oil. Then, without a hammer stroke, the work is finished by God. A cloud covers the tent. The glory fills the tabernacle so heavily that Moses cannot enter. From that day, Israel learns a new rhythm. When the cloud lifts, they pull up stakes and follow. When the cloud settles, they camp at the entrance of the tent of meeting. All of Israel is watching. This is not a coronation with a crown. It's an ordination with blood, oil, and 7 long days. The Lord tells Moses exactly what to bring.
Aaron and his sons, their priestly garments, the anointing oil, a bull for the sin offering, 2 rams, and a basket of unleavened bread. Gather the whole community.
The people press in. This is public. God is making priests before everyone's eyes. First, Moses washes Aaron and his sons with water. Then he dresses Aaron piece by piece.
Tunic, sash, robe, ephod.
He fastens the woven belt, sets the breastpiece with the Urim and Thummim inside, and places the turban on his head, with the gold plate that reads, Holy to the Lord. Then the sons, tunics, sashes, caps, just as commanded. Moses takes the anointing oil. He sprinkles the tabernacle, then the bronze altar 7 times, and all its tools. He pours oil on Aaron's head. It runs down his beard, onto his robes. This is consecration, setting apart for God alone. Now the sacrifices. Aaron and his sons lay their hands on the bull for the sin offering, identifying with it. Moses kills it, puts blood on the horns of the altar to purify it, pours the rest at its base. The fat is burned on the altar, but the hide and flesh are taken outside the camp and burned completely. Next, the first ram, the burnt offering, blood splashed around the altar. The whole animal washed, cut, and sent up in smoke, a pleasing aroma. Sin dealt with, then complete surrender. Then the second ram, the ram of ordination.
Lay your hands.
Moses slaughters it and does something startling. He takes blood and puts it on Aaron's right earlobe, on his right thumb, and on the big toe of his right foot. Then he does the same for each son. Ear to hear God, hand to do God's work, foot to walk God's way, every part consecrated. Moses takes the fat, the right thigh, and 3 kinds of unleavened bread, places them in their hands, and they lift it as a wave offering before the Lord. Then it all goes up in smoke. Finally, Moses takes oil and blood from the altar and sprinkles it on Aaron, his sons, and their garments, people and clothes made holy together. Moses says,
Boil the meat at the entrance. Eat it there with the bread. Burn what remains. Do not leave the entrance for 7 days and nights, or you will die. Stay and keep the charge of the Lord.
7 days, not a moment, a residence. Aaron and his sons did everything the Lord commanded through Moses. On the 8th day, fire would come from God himself. But first, they had to be washed, clothed, anointed, and marked ear, hand, and foot for the work ahead. 2 men stand front and center, Nadab and Abihu. They're not random guys. They're the oldest sons of Aaron, the high priest. They were on Mount Sinai with Moses. They've seen God's glory with their own eyes. They should know better. Leviticus 10 tells us what happened next. Nadab and Abihu each grabbed their censers, those small fire pans used for burning incense before God. But they made 3 fatal mistakes. 1 wrong fire. They offered unauthorized fire before the Lord. Leviticus 10:1. God had already lit the altar fire himself. That fire was holy. It was never supposed to go out. But Nadab and Abihu brought fire from somewhere else. Their own fire. 2 wrong time. God gave very specific instructions for when and how incense was to be offered. This wasn't that time. They acted on impulse, not obedience. 3 wrong heart. Some scholars think Leviticus 10:9 hints they may have been drunk. Whether they were intoxicated or just arrogant, their attitude was casual about a holy God. They treated worship like it was about them. They walked into the tabernacle, swinging their censers, confident. The people probably watched, expecting another miracle. Instead, fire came out from the presence of the Lord. But this time, it didn't consume a sacrifice. It consumed them. In an instant, fire blazed forth from the Lord's presence and burned them up. And they died there before the Lord. Leviticus 10:2. Just like that. No warning. No second chance. Moses told Aaron,
This is what the Lord meant when he said,
I will show myself holy among those who are near me, and before all the people I will be glorified.
Aaron, he stayed silent. Leviticus 10:3. What could he say? His sons were dead, because they treated holy things like common things. God was teaching his people what it meant to be holy. Laws were given for worship, justice, and daily life. But one afternoon, something happened that would set a precedent for all of Israel. A young man, his mother was an Israelite named Shelemith, from the tribe of Dan, and his father was Egyptian, got into a fight in the camp.
You don't belong here, son of an Egyptian.
Watch your mouth.
Voices rose, fists clenched, and in his anger, the son of Shelemith did something unthinkable. He blasphemed the name, the sacred name of the Lord, and cursed. The people around him were stunned. No one had heard this before. They grabbed him and brought him to Moses. But Moses didn't decide right away. This was new.
Moses, this man cursed the name during the fight. What should we do?
Moses put him in custody and waited. He went before the Lord to ask what justice looked like when God's own name was attacked. Then the Lord spoke to Moses.
Take the blasphemer outside the camp. Let all who heard him lay their hands on his head to show they heard his guilt and are not part of it. Then all the congregation shall stone him. This law applies to everyone, the native-born and the foreigner alike. Whoever blasphemes the name of the Lord shall be put to death.
God also used this moment to establish a principle: life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. Justice must match the offense. When someone treats God's name as worthless, they've struck at the foundation of Israel's covenant. So Moses spoke to the people of Israel. They took the man who had cursed outside the camp. The witnesses went first. Then the whole community took up stones. It was sobering. Israel learned that words aren't cheap, especially words against the Holy One, who delivered them from slavery. After 400 years of slavery in Egypt, and a year at Mount Sinai, the Israelites are camped at Kadesh Barnea. The promised land, Canaan, is finally just ahead. But before they enter, God tells Moses,
Send men to scout the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelites. Send one leader from each of the 12 tribes.
12 men, 12 tribes, one mission: see the land. For 40 days, the spies move through Canaan. They see it all. Rolling hills and fertile valleys, massive walled cities with guards on the towers, people who look like giants, vineyards so rich that it takes 2 men to carry one cluster of grapes on a pole between them. They taste figs, pomegranates, and milk and honey. The land is everything God promised: abundant, beautiful, flowing. But it's also fortified, dangerous, intimidating. On day 40, they return to camp. The whole community gathers. The 12 spies drop the fruit at Moses' feet. Then they speak.
The land is amazing. It really does flow with milk and honey. But the people are powerful. The cities are fortified and huge. We even saw the descendants of Anak there. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. We can't attack them. They're stronger than we are.
But 2 men step forward: Joshua from Ephraim and Caleb from Judah.
The land we pass through is exceedingly good. If the Lord is pleased with us, he will lead us into it. Do not be afraid of the people. The Lord is with us. We can certainly take it.
The crowd had a choice: faith or fear. They chose fear.
Why did God bring us here to die? Let's choose a new leader and go back to Egypt.
Moses and Aaron fall face down. Joshua and Caleb tear their clothes in grief because they refused to trust. God decreed this generation would not enter the land. The people were desperate. Their animals were dying. Their children were crying. So they turned on Moses and Aaron.
Why did you bring us out of Egypt just to kill us here? There's no grain, no figs, no vines, no pomegranates, and no water to drink.
Moses and Aaron fell face down before God, and the glory of the Lord appeared to them.
Moses, take the staff, gather the people, speak to that rock before their eyes, and it will pour out water. You will bring water from the rock for them.
So Moses took the staff. The people gathered. The rock stood there, silent, dry, impossible. But Moses was angry, frustrated, tired of the complaining.
Listen, you rebels. Must we bring you water out of this rock?
Then Moses raised his arm and struck the rock. Once, twice, water gushed out, abundant, more than enough for everyone and their livestock. The people drank. The crisis was over. But God wasn't done speaking.
Because you did not trust me enough to honor me as holy in front of Israel, you will not bring this community into the land I give them.
The water flowed, but Moses would never enter the promised land. Why? Because God said speak to the rock, not strike it. In his anger, Moses made it look like the miracle came from him and Aaron. Must we bring you water? instead of showing God's power and mercy. Centuries later, the Apostle Paul would say that rock was a picture of Christ, struck once to give living water to all who thirst. Moses, decades into their journey, from slavery in Egypt to the promised land. But by now, they were tired and frustrated. The people started to complain. Again, they spoke against God and against Moses.
Why have you brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? There's no food, no water, and we hate this miserable manna.
It wasn't the first time they'd complained, but this time something changed. Venomous snakes came into the camp. The Bible calls them fiery serpents. People were bitten, and many died. Suddenly, the danger they'd been imagining became very real. The people ran to Moses.
We sinned when we spoke against the Lord and against you. Pray that the Lord takes the snakes away.
So Moses prayed, but God didn't remove the snakes. Instead, he gave Moses an odd command.
Make a bronze serpent and put it on a pole. Anyone who is bitten can look at it and live.
Think about that. No medicine, no anti-venom, no battle plan. Just look. A bronze snake lifted up on a pole in the middle of camp. Imagine you're there. You've been bitten. The venom burns in your veins. You can feel death creeping in. You hear that if you just look at that bronze serpent, you will live. Some probably thought it was ridiculous.
How could looking at a statue save me?
But those who chose to believe, who dragged themselves out of their tents and lifted their eyes to that pole, they lived instantly. The venom lost its power the moment they looked in faith. The story doesn't end in the desert. Centuries later, Jesus pointed back to it. He said,
Just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so the Son of Man must be lifted up, that whoever believes in him may have eternal life.
The bronze serpent was never magic. It was a symbol of trust. 12 spies are sent in to scout it out. They come back with giant grapes, proof the land is good. But 10 of them also come back with fear.
The people are giants. We looked like grasshoppers to them.
Only Joshua and Caleb say,
We can take it. God is with us.
But the people panic. They cry, complain, and even talk about going back to Egypt. Because they refused to trust, God gives them a verdict.
For 40 years, 1 year for each day you spied out the land, you will wander. Everyone 20 years and older will die here, except Joshua and Caleb.
So the nation turns south into the wilderness for 40 years. That's not a random number. It's one generation, long enough for a new generation to grow up, one that hadn't been slaves, one that could choose faith over fear. Those 40 years weren't just punishment, they were training. Manna appeared every morning except Sabbath. God was teaching daily dependence. When they thirsted, God provided. Cloud by day, fire by night. God never left them. His presence led them. The law, they learned how to live as God's people. But it was also hard. They battled Amalekites. They complained about food. They dealt with rebellion. Moses disobeyed once and was told he wouldn't enter the land either. Actions have weight. The year is around 1406 BC. The Israelites are camped on the plains of Moab, just across the Jordan River from the land God promised them. After 40 years in the wilderness, one man stands before a new generation. His name is Moses. He's 120 years old, and he knows he won't cross into Canaan. So he gives one last series of speeches. That's the book of Deuteronomy, means second law. Moses starts by reminding Israel where they've been.
Remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness these 40 years.
He retells their story. Egypt, the Red Sea, Mount Sinai where they received the 10 Commandments. But he also reminds them of their failures, how their parents refused to enter the land the first time, afraid of giants. Because of that unbelief, that generation died in the desert.
It was because of you the Lord became angry with me too. I will not cross the Jordan. I am not going with you into the land flowing with milk and honey. Joshua will lead you now. But before you go, remember. Remember when you were slaves and the Lord brought you out with a mighty hand. Remember the manna in the desert. Remember Mount Sinai, when the earth shook and you heard his voice. These things happened so you would know, man does not live by bread alone, but by every word from the mouth of God. So I set before you today a choice, life and death, blessing and curse. If you love the Lord your God, walk in his ways and keep his commands, you will live and flourish in the land. But if your heart turns away, If you forget the one who carried you like a father carries his son, you will be scattered. Do not say in your heart, "My power and the strength of my hands have made this wealth." Remember the Lord. He gives you the power. And one more thing. Hear, O Israel. The Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. Teach it to your children. Speak of it at home and on the road, when you lie down and when you rise.
Moses didn't just repeat the law, he begged them to love it. He recounted their failures, the golden calf, the complaints, the fear at Kadesh, not to shame them, but to warn them, because he knew human nature. He also looked ahead. He blessed each tribe by name. He sang a song, calling heaven and earth as witnesses, and he wrote everything down, so future generations would not forget.
I am no longer able to go out and come in. The Lord has said to me,
You shall not cross this Jordan.
So be strong and courageous. Do not fear, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Choose life, so that you and your children may live.
Moses, now 120 years old, climbs Mount Nebo. His body is tired, but his eye was undimmed and his vigor unabated, but he climbs alone.
Moses, lift your eyes. Look north, south, east, and west.
I see it, Lord.
This is the land I promised to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. I said, I will give it to your descendants. I have let you see it with your eyes, but you shall not go over there.
Why, years earlier, at Meribah, the people complained of thirst. God told Moses to speak to the rock. In frustration, Moses struck it twice. Water came, but trust was broken. Leadership has consequences, even for Moses. This is the same man who spoke to God face to face, who begged, "Show me your glory," who pleaded for mercy when Israel worshipped the golden calf. He brought them out of Egypt, but he would not bring them in. Moses looks over the land one last time.
It is enough, Lord, to see it. They are home.
Well done, my servant.
And Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, as the Lord had said. And he buried him in a valley, but to this day, no one knows his grave. Israel wept for 30 days. Then Joshua, filled with the spirit of wisdom, rose to lead them across the Jordan. Moses never set foot in the promised land, but he saw it. And sometimes, the greatest act of faith is to bring others to a promise you yourself won't enter. His final speeches weren't just goodbye, they were a bridge, from the wilderness to the future, from one generation to the next. Moses' legacy. Moses started as a rescued baby, became a prince, then a fugitive, then a reluctant leader. He stood before Pharaoh, split a sea, received the law, and guided a stubborn nation for 40 years. He never made it to Canaan, but he brought his people to its edge. Jews, Christians, and Muslims still honor him as lawgiver, prophet, and friend of God.